Yes, please, Henry.
Hey there, Dean.
Hi.
Um, just adjacent to what you were saying earlier about David Lynch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have a question about his about transcendental meditation,
Mm-hmm.
basically.
Mm-hmm.
So he talks about transcending,
Yep.
and it struck me that I just have no idea what that means.
Mm-hmm.
And he also talked about a kind of like his sort of moment of awakening, if you like,
Mm-hmm.
felt to him like a kind of an elevator where they cut the cable and it goes, shooting down into the depths of his of his awareness or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of like I would love you to help interpret that as someone who has, I believe, been involved in the TM
Mm-hmm.
thing in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank
Talking from in the context of having practiced and having taught specifically transcendental meditation for many years, and then other forms of natural meditation for more years. We can talk about that. Henry, you know all about transcending. Just the word is the stumbling block here. But experientially, because I from all the practice we've done together and the discussions we've had, I know you're very much familiar. To transcend, of course, the word means to go beyond. To go beyond. It's a word that I don't use much anymore. I don't think I use that word at all anymore, because it's one of these words that can be very potent for a lot of people, but can also be misleading. Because when people hear, oh, to go beyond, you think, okay, in meditation, you're supposed to stop hearing thoughts, you're supposed to stop feeling sensations, you're supposed to stop experiencing thoughts, you're supposed to go beyond all of that in order to experience it. Let's just say for the moment, it with a capital I, or that with a capital V, to experience the infinite. We could say you need. People think that all the waves have to go away. All the wave activity of experiencing sound and form and all of that in order to experience the boundless ocean of beingness, the transcendent, right? And that can lead to a lot of, in some cases, to a lot of sort of, struggling in meditation. Oh, I have to make this stuff go away, or just failing to recognize, oh, this stuff, the sounds in the room haven't gone away. Therefore, I have not experienced the underlying transcendent. And all this noise persists. Therefore, I've not experienced the inner silence. But what we experience in our in our meditation, when we stop confusing ourselves with these words, is that both can be there. Both can be there. That we can, just like the example that we've used before. You can be sitting at the corner cafe enjoying your pie and coffee, quietly, in the quietness of that, maybe easily chatting with a friend or something. All the buzz of all the other patrons in the diner, that's still there. The sound of the traffic going by, that's still there. But we, because we are, to use a key word that I used in the meditation today, because we are enjoying eating our pie and coffee, or enjoying having our quiet chat with our friend. We don't mind the other stuff that's there. Now, there's two aspects to this word mind. One is the aspect of resent it. We don't resent it. And the other is the aspect of we don't particularly attend to it. We don't feel like we have to mind it like minding the store. And maybe kind of a third aspect of that is we don't have to be mindful of it. We just ignore it. And actually, ignore is another word that might be misinterpreted. Oh, ignore it, I've got to block it out. No, if you're trying to block something out, you're not ignoring it, you're finding another way to engage it. We just engage, my favorite formulation these days, as you know, is we just be with whatever is. And because of the inherent attractiveness of being, of transcendence, right? Because that ocean of being, or that ocean of the transcendent, is boundless, and everything else, all the waves of the experiences of the five senses and thinking and feeling and all that, because that's all has boundaries, that all has specificity. It's natural. Our attention, when we let it, our attention naturally is drawn into that ocean of boundlessness. And there's just no contest between that and the ocean and the waves. The ocean doesn't to be in the ocean, we don't have to obliterate the waves. The ocean is the world heavyweight champion of experience. Is this making sense to you? Is this landing for you? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I mean I've heard this word used in, I mean, I guess the first thing I wondered was, well, what is the difference between transcendental meditation and then the natural meditation that we
Mm-hmm.
tend to do?
Right.
But the second thing is, you hear this word transcendental. Like I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and they were talking about a transcendental God, and transcendental somehow seems to suggest remoteness in some contexts.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering whether so I was wondering whether transcendental meditation is sort of meant to somehow conceptualize an idea of, I mean, I think you just said it, that
Mm-hmm.
it is sort of going beyond, right?
Yeah, yeah. And again, I used to use that kind of language even when I wasn't using the word transcend. I'd use the word beyond a lot. Beyond time, beyond space. But what I've come to realize, and this the some of these effects of language, the way language works on us, can be very, very subtle. But I try to keep getting more tuned into it and keep refining it. And what I realized was, I kept saying beyond time, beyond space, beyond cause and effect, right, beyond the matrix of relative life, that still sounds like, oh, you have to go beyond. You have to travel somewhere and leave it behind. And even subtly, that suggests, that promotes in meditation, trying to get somewhere. And if anything, it would be more, I think, more conducive to effortless practice and more accurate, actually, to say before time, before space, before cause and effect. Before all of those arise, we already are in the ocean. Actually, we already are the ocean of just beingness. We're always already there. We've just not noticed it because we keep engaging our attention in the waves of relativity, in the waves of becoming. In a way, that's the transcendence. That's the going beyond. Right. I hope this doesn't confuse matters too much, but in a funny way, we could say all this engagement in the finite world is the going beyond. It's just a matter of just settling back home where we've been all along.
Thanks.
Yeah. Now, as far as the difference, the similarity and the difference between what we practice here, what I call natural meditation, and what's practiced as transcendental meditation, capital T, capital M. So Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who was the developer of transcendental meditation and, really established the teaching of it around the world, and he was my early teacher for many years. And he spoiled me because his genius, in my opinion, his genius was conveying that effective meditation is effortless, and that meditation is effective not in spite of being effortless, but because it's effortless. That you've heard this sentence I like to say, which is that any effort to create a non-agitated state of mind is itself a form of agitation. That's the catch-22 of trying to meditate. So trying to meditate is always self-defeating. And what Maharishi did was he taught a technique of effortless meditation. Specifically, it uses a vehicle of meditation, which is a mantra, and which is assigned to the individual meditator at the time that they're first instructed. And it's going to be a short, probably a 1 or 2 syllable mantra, and you're taught in a very simple way to entertain that mantra mentally, internally, not trying to think it clearly, but just being with it in a completely easygoing, effortless way, so that it dissolves the way a cough drop dissolves in your mouth. The mantra dissolves in your mind, and then you're left with the silence of being. So, and what I noticed in my years of teaching TM was that for many people, it works extremely well, but not for all people. That some people will get that the effortlessness of it and get, just engaging the mantra is just a faint idea. And as the way Maharishi trained TM teachers, we all used exactly the same language. The training was very rigorous. So all that is in there in the way that TM is taught. It's just there as a faint idea. But some people, I noticed in my TM teaching days and subsequently, some people, no matter how many times they hear that, they never quite get the knack of just entertaining the mantra effortlessly. And no matter how many times they're told, no, don't concentrate, they're trying to concentrate on it, they're kind of hammering at it, and then they stop because it's just, giving them a headache or something. And there's... And the TM teachers tend to not see the people who stop, so they might not be aware of the problem for some people, because the people who stop just don't come around anymore. But I see them because many of them come to my sessions. And one of the reasons that I left, eventually moved on from teaching specifically in the name of TM and in the TM organization. One was they raised the prices, I thought, outrageously.
David Lynch had to pay $1 million to go and see his guru, right?
Yeah, don't get me started. And the organization always sucked. Wonderful people, but the organization was always... there's a saying that the term spiritual organization is an oxymoron. But also there is a kind of a thread of I want a nicer word than fanaticism, but I'm not thinking of it at the moment. Just kind of dogmatism, let's say, that goes back to Maharishi. Maharishi was this way, that like TM is the only way. And actually you can hear it in the way David Lynch, God bless him, he right to the end he talked about TM that way. This is the only way that's proven. It's great. And he was so wonderfully enthusiastic about what meditation had done in his life and wanting to share it. I can only feel warm about that. But there is that element of kind of this way is the only way.
So
And
why do you say that Maharishi spoiled you?
Maharishi spoiled me because he exposed me to effortless meditation. So my standard became very high. So when I then went out and was back out and back in the whole smorgasbord of different meditative paths again after when I got to the end of my TM years, that the way that Maharishi had spoiled me, it simplified it. It eliminated a lot of stuff because I didn't have to try the stuff that was effortful. I knew that was not going to work for me.
Oh, so spoiled in a good way.
Oh yes, 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 yes. Spoiled in a great way. And I'm eternally grateful to Maharishi for doing that. I mean, Maharishi, we were talking about this at the beginning of the session today. That people can be sublime teachers. They're still people, and Maharishi was a person. He had a human side. It was some stuff was not all that great. I don't go into that much because you hear me when I cite Maharishi. I just love citing his wisdom that was so inspiring to me. But the fact of the matter is, I had to leave his organization. I had to leave. It was very difficult. I loved him so much, and had such a deep feeling of kind of loyalty to him that when I got to realizing, no, I have to move on. And specifically, it happened. I was teaching this course at the Pingree School, this prep school where I taught in New Jersey, this course, Literature of Enlightenment, where we were reading the Tao Te Ching and the Plato Symposium and haiku and the Dharma bums and all this, the Gospel of Thomas, and haiku, and our lab work was meditation. And for years, when I taught that course, I taught TM to the students. We had one day we had set it up as a field trip where we all left campus, and I did the personal instruction with each kid. As sometimes I brought in another teacher to help, handle the numbers. So we'd have a couple of rooms going, like a barber shop with a couple of chairs going, and they would all pay the standard fee for TM instruction to the organization. At that time, for students, it was $85. And I always said, if anyone has a problem with that fee, come to me quietly and I'll arrange a scholarship. Right? So the money was never an issue. Then in the summer of 1993, I was out in California being with my mom, who was dying of breast cancer. And when that finished, my mom passed, and I came back to New Jersey. And my wife, Maggie, told me that we'd gotten mail from the organization that now, instead of charging high school students $85, we had to charge them $2,500. Right. Yes, that your wide-eyed expression is appropriate. Yeah, that was nuts. And basically I spent the whole summer trying to write, and of course this was before the days of email, so I'm writing letters and sending faxes, if you remember faxes, to first trying to figure out who was in charge of the organization was challenging because the organization was, as I say, always was always kind of disorganized. And basically telling, people who might be in charge, I'm leading the longest running, most successful high school TM program in the country. I need a special dispensation to have these kids learn at the old rate, or you're going to put an end to that program. Please advise. And you know what the response was? No response. No response. About a year later, I got a phone call from a secretary in the office of Bevan Morris, who was the president at the time of Maharishi International University out in Fairfield, Iowa. Understand you're having some difficulty. And at that point, the ship had sailed. So that forced me out of the nest. That forced me to go and start exploring, finding other ways of teaching meditation that met this gold standard of effortlessness, of naturalness that I had inherited, along with a bunch of other fortunate people had inherited from Maharishi. And that summer, later that same summer of '93, I went on a 1-week retreat in, oh my God, beautiful Brighton Bush Hot Springs in Eastern Oregon with Ram Dass. And Ram Dass was always such a just wonderful, down-to-earth, eclectic, open to all paths kind of guy. And he had a bunch of younger teachers doing workshops in various kinds of meditation and devotion and this and that in the afternoon. So it was a good opportunity to, taste my way around the smorgasbord. And that was extremely helpful. So yeah, that's how that happened. Good. Good. What else tonight? Yes, please, David.
If it's okay to pursue a little something from what you just said, why did you choose with the style of meditation that you teach? Why did you choose to drop a mantra? Was there any reasoning there, or?
Yeah, because I discovered it wasn't necessary. And I just wanted to make I wanted things to be as streamlined as possible. Picking up the story from that summer retreat with Ram Dass, a couple of the teachers, the young teachers there, were trained in Dzogchen, and Dzogchen in the is considered the pinnacle meditative teaching of Tibetan Buddhism. And it's essentially the approach that we do here. It's essentially just being with what is. There's some specifics in Dzogchen, the classical Dzogchen style. You don't even close your eyes. Why would you close your eyes, right? We don't close our ears. We don't want to. It makes sense to me that the meditation should be as elegant as possible. Why have a mantra that you have to, the whole, as we said before, the whole point of the mantra is you use it to lose it. You use it to start with it, and then it dissolves, and then you're left in the silence of being. If you can start without it and just be there in the same place, why not do that? And I think everyone has experienced here that you can. Maharishi's genius was he created a procedure. He took, look, this was in the mid '60s, and there was this whole generation of us. I was born in 1949. This whole generation of us that were in our early 20s at the time, and most of us were hippies. We were, one friend of mine would say, this friend of mine said, he took a bunch of hippies and drug dealers off of the streets, gave us haircuts and neckties, and said, go change the world. Here's a procedure, and it's a memorized procedure. We were given scripts. When the student says, you ask him, okay, was that easy? And if he says this, you reply with this. If she says that, you reply with that. It's a flow chart. No spontaneity in it. No spontaneity allowed. And because Maharishi's whole approach was when the student goes into the room with you, I want them to be instructed in exactly the same way as if they went in the room with me, with Maharishi. And it was brilliant because it didn't depend on any particular skill or clarity or level of development for the teacher. We could just teach in this completely mechanical way. Now, one of the problems was that a lot of the teachers would sound mechanical. They'd sound very robotic in reciting the stuff from the script. I had a background in acting, and so I had a lot of experience, and then later in teaching school. So I had a lot of experience in saying the same exact words for the 100th time and making it sound fresh, like you're just thinking of it. Right? So I was pretty effective as a TM teacher. But, and then also a lot of people, because the part of the deal in TM is that the mantra, you're not supposed to speak it out loud and you're not supposed to share it with other people. And just the idea is that it's more effective, it's like planting a seed. This was the metaphor Maharishi always used. It's like planting a seed in the ground. It's better to leave it in the ground. You don't dig it up to keep digging it up to look at it. But this business of not sharing the mantra would get very misunderstood, and people would think, oh, there's this very, there's something woo-woo about it. Or they would, look it up and just because it was always talked about as a meaningless sound because it was used not for any meaning that it might have, but for its sound quality. A mantra that's used in that way internally has to be a very mellifluous sound that's very conducive to melting away, right? But then people would, they'd start, especially now with the proliferation of the internet, going online and find, wait a minute, my mantra, I was told it's meaningless. It means this in Sanskrit, or is this the word I had, or is this? So for me, it's just better eliminate all that confusion. And also just in terms of the logistics of it, to teach TM to a person, I had to instruct them individually. I had to select the mantra for them, take them into a room, impart it, go through all of that. And I kept feeling, I want to be able to walk into a room full of people. I want to walk into an auditorium full of people and instruct them all together if that's what's going on. And I found out I could do that. So, when people come to me and tell me, oh, I'm doing TM, I say, how's your experience of it? And they say, oh, it's great. It's easy. It's effortless. I really enjoy it. I'm really feeling a lot of benefit in my life. And go, great. God bless. And then I have people that come and say, yeah, I was doing TM, but I kept trying to concentrate on that mantra. And I know the TM teacher was telling him, don't try to concentrate, but they're not going to hear that. So, and also, if people ask me, should I take the TM course? I go, well, you can do that if you like. It's a bunch of money. I'm not sure how much they charge these days, but I feel pretty confident they can get the same result doing what we do here, and I do it pro. I mean, I'm fortunate to be in the situation, the stage of my life where I can just do all this pro bono. Okay, is this all satisfying your question? Cool. Good.
And now you've spoiled a bunch of people too.
I've spoiled a bunch of people too. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, and in fact, when people ask me, Jennifer, if you don't mind my sharing this, Jennifer was emailing me about she's been doing some stuff with some other teachers, and Lama Willa, who I know, who's an old friend of mine from like 20 years back, Lama Willa of the Natural Dharma Foundation, and she's just a wonderful, impeccable teacher. And Jennifer was asking, what about this, what about that, and I think that if you've gotten saturated in this experience of natural meditation, you're essentially, and yeah, this is what I failed to say to you in the email, I realize now, Jennifer, is that you've been inoculated, you're safe. You can go do anything, and you'll, if it's not resonating with the ease and the naturalness of this, then you probably won't pursue it.